You intersect a lot with conflict in many ways, not just organizational conflict, but actual physical conflict that the refugees have encountered, or your stories, sometimes the people working. But from a leadership perspective, thinking about conflict and problem solving, they intersect with each other. And perspective, again, multicultural, worldwide. You have people coming up with different things. One thing's a problem here, it wouldn't even rise to the radar here. How do you go about that as far as trying to bring some sense to conflict and problem solving from a multicultural organization?
Let me start from another point. When I was a younger man, I was fighting for justice. I studied liberation theology, and sometimes I can have sympathy for those who take the gun and shoot the unjust guys. No, I don't have it anymore. But after I saw these dead people in Rwanda still lying in the church after 1 year after the genocide and all this violence, I never wanted violence. It's also true. It's just not something you can have strong emotional feelings about justice and always the bad empires and the bad, all the injustice and the rich and the bad guys on the other side of the world and all this kind of more radical ideas as a young person, yeah. But I don't want that anymore. This kind of, it doesn't lead anywhere. So non-violence is the way. And here again, from parents, I walk rather away from a fight. I don't want to. But I have here a quote here on the wall. I made that sentence once we discussed in the international office about the regional directors don't follow and this and that, and again, we should order them and whatever. And I say, they cannot refuse our love. If we help them, if we serve them, they will not refuse our support. And that's, for me, the key. I do not rule with decrees here. Very rarely I write a strong letter and say, you have to do that, you have to do that, and so on. It's rather help them. And then they accept, and then we go along with it. Sometimes we have to be stronger, okay, we have to move here because of the people, because of those who are in need. But at the end, this is, I think they cannot refuse. I love my office. The staff gave it that to me for my birthday back, and I put it there because they caught it. It was just a sentence in between. You say something, things like that, and it's a lot of truth in it. And I mean it actually. Let me say one more thing on leadership which came to my mind in recent months. Spiritually, we talk always about, from the gospel, everyone has to take up his cross and so on. And that's true. To live without limitation. But if you're in leadership, you carry also the cross of other people. And you see the fragility, our human brokenness, the limits, and still, you never get the perfect staff. Help them to make the best out of it, help support them. And in a way, when things go wrong, you even then take responsibility, which you have not caused, as a leader. But in a way, you have to take responsibility. It's a way to take up the cross of other people, their fragility, even their failings at times, And I think that's, for me, a deep insight what it means to be in leadership. It has, again, something to do with this dimension. You love people and you carry the cross, and that's the way out. So the whole leadership concept of Christ is a different one, and I can add another reflection which is very important for me. We all know the three temptations. Yeah? It's about Jesus, turn stones into bread, material wealth, and go up to on the temple, and everyone will adore you, the glory, and I give you all the empires of the world, but pardon me. And that's, I think, Jesus refused these things. And these are exactly the three things which drive so much leadership. Power, glory, and wealth. That's the normal leadership in the world is run on that. And that causes also a lot of the problems. Because people kill for power, they kill for wealth, they kill for the glory. And Jesus refused that, knowing if he gets a Son of God also into that, he will not be better. He will be just the same. And St. Ignatius, in his spiritual exercises, he talks about humility. Yeah? Okay, it's just that they have poverty. Let's talk about poverty. Because it's something to resist the temptation of wealth and thinking we can save the world with material goods. And that's the same thing for JRS. To think we save the world with a lot of material things. Or the refugees. They need more than just material. It's about power. If we were the leaders of the world and think that it will the world be less violent, I would hope, but the temptation would be also there. Let's say we have all the power of the world and can run the world and we make a better world. We know it is so difficult, that temptation. That's why we will not have the power. We are powerless, sharing the powerlessness. And then the glory, also as an organization, as a leader, you can once you start your own glory. Am I not good here? And so, and then you turn the whole organization around yourself, become self-centered. It goes wrong. And these are the temptations. And Jesus refused them, and also Ignatius says, humility, poverty, and obedience. Follow and listen to the others. Listen to the people. Be humble, and in poverty follow the Christ. I think these are the spiritual answers to counterbalance the temptations of this world. We always live with these temptations, also as a church leader. And we see them more than enough. How they also fall into glory and power and wealth, living better than the others and so on. That's why we need this counterbalance, at least to help us to push more on that side. But I think these are, for me, insights also in the analysis of the world. Why do we have always these conflicts and these problems? Why is leadership going so badly wrong in government? Sometimes because people fall into these temptations. And that's how the world even functions often. Structures are built that way, political structures and so on, economic structures. But what is our response is, okay, to try differently. And again, being on the side of losers or like refugees or poor people helps us to maintain these values as counter values of the gospel against the dominant values of the world, of the normal, the earthly leadership. Jesus said very clearly, when the apostles being tempted themselves and why everyone wants to be number one, on the side of Jesus and so on, he says, can you drink my cup, take up this suffering also? And who wants to be the first is the last and has to be the leader of all, the servant of all. He's very clear. I think there's a radical, profound difference. Even if the church often does not understand that and falls into the temptation. But Jesus made it very clear, to save the world, to get a better world, we have to have a different concept and value set of leadership and a different approach. If we are not going to save it with material wealth, because the material wealth is causing a lot of injustice, more material wealth is not distributed. We are not going to save it with all the power of the world, because power is so often used to oppress. You're not going to save the world with more glory and the famous and no. So it's just, we need this counterbalance. As I say, we are all tempted in it. We all have a bit of that. It's clear. But at least let's strive for these values, the ideals Jesus lived us, and what also as a Jesuit, our vows imply poverty, obedience, and humility.